Hey, welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Row. So tonight we're going to be talking about one of the most fabled and historic brands of whiskey in the United States, and that's Jack Daniel's. Now, there's a reason why we're talking about Jack Daniel's tonight, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. So I feel like this storied brand needs just a little bit of history. So Jack Daniel's was founded in 1875 by Jasper Newton Daniels, who went by the name Jack. This brand, founded in Lynchburg, Tennessee, doesn't consider itself bourbon. Technically, it qualifies as bourbon. Most of the releases of Jack Daniel's qualify as bourbon, but they go by Tennessee whiskey because they follow a special process called the Lincoln County process. This process basically is just an additional filtration step. A lot of Tennessee whiskeys follow that Lincoln County process, thus they're Tennessee whiskey versus bourbon. It's a point of pride. The distinction is minor, in my opinion. I feel like it's a point of pride for Tennessee whiskey to be Tennessee whiskey and not Kentucky bourbon or not bourbon. Anyway, they follow this little distinguishing process for this additional filtration step. If you want to, you can look more into this Lincoln County process. But to start off tonight, we're going to start off with just a little sip of Old No. 7 from Jack Daniel's. Now, when I first got into bourbon, this was something that like my friends drank. I just didn't really care for it. I didn't like the way it tasted. I still am not a huge fan, but it's not the worst whiskey in the world. So I've had some very, very nice whiskeys as we've grown the YouTube channel Whiskey Row. I've had very, very expensive bottles, some of the most sought after bottles in the world. There's a lot of the really sought after bottles I still haven't had, and that's, bucket list stuff. When it comes down to it, you don't have to have a fancy whiskey or bourbon to be happy. You just have to find something that you like and find a bottle that you love. And if you love Jack Daniel's Old No. 7, by gosh, you drink it. On the nose, there's bananas and cream, a faint, very, very faint touch of nuttiness, some herbalness. It's actually not bad on the nose. It's kind of pleasant. Now, coming in at 80 proof, it's relatively thin. It's not super rich. I get a touch of peanut, some clove, hints of black pepper. It's got a little faint underlying sweetness of, I think it's more of a caramel, maybe slight vanilla. Very faint. Again, this is 80 proof, so it's not going to rock your world if you're a proof hound. But it's pretty easy to sip. There's a little bit of a cinnamon finish on it. It's not bad. It's a solid, inexpensive drink. It's good for mixers. A Jack and Coke is legendary. But this is the first bottle of Jack Daniel's that I ever fell in love with. I really didn't have a good opinion of the brand when I bought this bottle. Really only my exposure was the Old No. 7, and it just doesn't excite you like some of the other brands do. But I bought this bottle because I'd heard that the single barrel proofs that they did were really, really pretty good. Gone very slowly just because even though it's good, it's not one that I get excited about drinking or trying that often, so it's been around for a while. Now, this entry-level Old No. 7 bottle will run you about $20. This single barrel proof run will run you more along the lines of $60 or $70. So obviously I'm getting a lot more proof on the nose here. It's obviously 49 proof points higher. I'm getting a little bit of clove, hints of black pepper, some herbalness. Not really much sweet on the nose. A hint of a little bit of fruit almost I got that time. A little odd. We'll run with it. Let's have a drink. The experience that you get from this is so much more intense and amazing than the Old No. 7. There's some banana and cinnamon, there's rich caramels, a hint of toffee, some herbalness, black pepper. It's just a very, very well-balanced high-proof bourbon. When I had this, I was like, wow, this is a pretty special bottle. So this has always been one of those high-proof pours that I really respect, and it's always done well in the blinds that I've done here in Whiskey Row in the Speakeasy. Now this one I don't drink for fun or for pleasure. I keep it for when friends come over and share with or to do blind tastings or something like that, just to have one around, just because how legendary it is. This one I'll always have in the Speakeasy. I will always have a Jack Daniel's single barrel proof bourbon in the Speakeasy because it is that good. It really, really is. That's just an amazing pour. The finish on that is just so smooth with like some cinnamon and this really, really good trailing sweetness. If you've never had a pour of a high proof bourbon and gotten to where you can appreciate it from a proof standpoint, but if you haven't had a high proof bourbon and really just ridden that experience through and tasted it, you should try it sometime. This is actually a really accessible, easy to find alternative for a high proof bourbon, especially if you haven't had one before. So maybe consider checking it out. Now the purpose of the video tonight is you guys know that I actually got my first Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select bottle from a friend. It was given to me by Jerry a couple of months ago, a local guy here in town who's a buddy of mine. He just out of the goodness of his heart and as a thank you to the channel gave it to me. I just totally unexpected, just very, very gracious of him. And I didn't want to open it because it was a gift and just the beautiful case, the beautiful bottle. I just never wanted to open it. But Jerry was able to find me a second one. I paid him for it. It was $150, but that's retail on it. for this beautiful case, beautiful bottle, the book with the story of Frank Sinatra and Jack Daniels. And I've mentioned it before in my videos. I have a special connection with Frank Sinatra. There was a period a number of years ago, and I remember sitting in my apartment and listening to Frank Sinatra and enjoying a good bourbon and a good drink. And so to actually have now 2 bottles of Sinatra Select, well, that means I can open one. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We are opening a Jack Daniels Sinatra Select. Now, this has been out since I think 2015, 2016 is when they were first released. So it's still a special edition and it can be hard to find. You know, it's not a brand new thing. It's been around for a number of years. So in the case, there is an invitation to the Jack Daniels Select Club. It says, to honor the legacy set forth by Frank Sinatra, we invite you to join the Jack Daniels Country Club as an honorary member. Frank originally founded this private club and created a special crest for all his friends who shared his passion for the drink he called the Nectar of the Gods. Anyway, I will never go to the Jack Daniels Country Club. It's kind of cool. I make fun of it, but it's actually really pretty cool. And it comes with this book. There's pictures of Frank, the whole history of how he got tied in with Jack Daniels. And I've actually read through the thing before. It's a good little read. It's just a great legacy, a little bit of Americana, and it's quite a cool story. Well, let's focus on the bottle. Let me get this case out of the way. It's gorgeous, but we don't need it here right now. So this Jack Daniels Sinatra Select, let me get that focused in there good for you. Such a beautiful bottle. It's a big, hefty bottle. Gorgeous, you know, look how thick the glass bottom is on this thing. Let's get this open. That's a good cork pop on that. Wow. Jamie's going to love this. It smells like dessert. She talks about the 1910 and how just dessert-like it is. And this is really that. This smell on this is just rich caramel and vanilla. It smells almost like a caramel vanilla pie. Super rich and sweet. It's a little bit of a teeny bit of some floralness and herbalness. Very, very, very hard to find though. That sweet note is just so strong on this. I'm excited for dessert. I'm very excited. That is so decadent. I never thought I'd describe a bourbon as decadent or a whiskey as decadent, but this is exceptional. Now I want to show you guys the color difference. This is the Sinatra Select, and this is an old number 7. Look at the color difference in here, how much more dark and coppery and almost red amber the Sinatra Select is versus the old number 7, which is much like thinner looking. And then look at it compared to the barrel proof, the single barrel proof. Now those are much closer in color. To me, more of an amber, and this is a little bit more reddish tint to it. One of the special things that they do in the creation of this Jack Daniels Sinatra Select is they actually use special barrels. And these barrels have extra deep grooves carved into them when they char them, which gives it a lot more surface area in the barrel, which then allows it to age in the barrels and really pick up a lot more of those caramels and those sweet tones that you get in the charring of the barrels. There's almost a hint of like a caramelized sugar. It's not just caramel, but like if you were to do like a creme brulee and that charred sugar top on the creme brulee, that's what really comes through on this. Jamie's going to drink my whole bottle. I thought feeding her the 1910 was going to get expensive, but if she starts drinking this $150 bottle and loving it, we're in trouble. So this thing's coming in at only 90 proof, but it's so rich. I can't imagine if this were a higher proof and more concentrated. It'd be like, it would almost be too sweet. Now on the tongue, I am getting a little bit of an herbalness. That sweet note is so strong and prevalent, but now that I'm getting a couple of sips into it, I'm starting to get a little bit more of an herbal profile. Ever so faint, teeniest little touch of cinnamon, touch of clove, and a touch of black pepper to kind of round out that sweetness. We just opened this up, so we're going to let this air out for a minute and get a little bit more air into it. We're going to actually make Frank Sinatra's drink how he liked to drink Jack Daniels. Now, he followed a process called the 3-2-1 process. So it's 3 ice cubes, 2 fingers of Jack, and then a splash of water. So we have here 3 ice cubes that have been sitting and melting while it's filming. Now we need 2 fingers of Jack Daniels. I'm not good at measuring fingers, I'll be honest with you. We've got this Whiskey Row Acopa Rocks glass we're using tonight from the whiskeyrow.shop store. Let's pour in 2 fingers. That's 2 fat fingers. And then a splash of water. And I'm not sure why we do the splash of water, what his deal is about that, because to me, putting it on ice would be enough to thin it out just a little bit. Throwing in another splash of water seems a little redundant. But hey, it's Frank Sinatra, and who am I to argue with that guy? Let's mix that up a little. I mean, this is easy to sip on because it's thinned out. So I'm guessing that right now, before the ice melts even more, that we've gone from 80 proof to probably about 60 proof in a matter of seconds. Maybe even 50 proof. I mean, it's just killing these ice cubes. I could sip on this all night, to be honest. It's still old number 7, other than it thins it out a little bit, and it's just an easy to sip water to bourbon at this point. So I wouldn't really recommend that you drink your bourbon or whiskey this way, unless you just really like it and you know what you're doing, because it kind of waters it down a lot. Anyway, that's how Frank Sinatra drank it, so we're going to drink the rest of this one the way he did in honor of him tonight. I do think I like the Jack watered down a little bit better than the standard old number 7 in the Glencairn glass. Let's just knock it out. We did it Frank's way in honor of Frank Sinatra. So if you ever want to make a Jack Daniel's Frank's way, 3 cubes, 2 fingers, and a splash of water. But back to this, because this is way better than this. These both are very good, but they're very, very different animals. If you are a bourbon connoisseur and like those quintessential bourbon flavors, the complexity, this particular bottle of Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof is a bourbon lover's, a bourbon connoisseur's dream. It's a very good, high proof, 129 proof, great bourbon flavors, well balanced, a superior finish. But this, on the other hand, is a different animal. This, to me, is something that a bourbon lover, you know, a lot of you out there that support Whiskey Row, that follow Whiskey Row, you would love this Single Barrel Proof Jack Daniel's. This one, I don't know. This is so insanely sweet to me. It's very delicious and smooth. To me, it's way better than a Woodford Reserve Double Oak. It knocks it out of the park. Almost on the edge of not being well balanced because of its just overriding sweet and smooth. This is not a whiskey that I could sit down and drink glass after glass. This is something where I'll have a glass, enjoy it as a dessert, like an after dinner type of thing, share a glass with Jamie. Jamie is going to love this. We should probably not even tell her about it because I don't want her to drink this or learn to love it because it's so expensive. And for me, it's hard to find. You know, I had to get this through Jerry. Jerry has connections, a way to get it that I don't have. I don't know if you can see that at all, but there's a little Frank Sinatra hat on the top of the cork. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to finally have opened up a Sinatra Select and being able to try one and taste one. But to me, this is a better, like, whiskey connoisseur, bourbon connoisseur's experience. This is, in some ways, nothing like anything I've had. This is like if you took a 1910 and you took all the sweet characteristics of a 1910 out on the flavor profile and you just turned those flavors, those sweet knobs, you turned them all the way up. That's what this is to me. There is a hint of some other stuff underneath. Do I recommend you buy it? Well, if you have $150 sitting around and you want a piece of Americana and a unique experience, definitely try it. It's not something that I'd recommend you drinking on a regular basis because, one, the price is very high. For $150, there's a lot of other bourbons that I would probably go to drink on a regular basis. This is something that Jamie, I think, is going to find very, very special and really like. And so this is something that I'm going to want to keep handy for her, as well as for me when I want something that's just a delicious, sweet dessert type bourbon. As always, we appreciate everybody. Jerry, thank you so much for getting this for me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Patreons, thank you so much for supporting me directly. Folks that go to whiskeyrow.shop, thank you for buying the merchandise. We appreciate it. The t-shirts, the flasks, the Glencairns, the rocks glasses, and the Zippo lighters. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Until next time, find a bottle you love.